Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We got Brent Beaird, a college football analyst, get his thoughts on what's going around in college football. Tonight, NFL kicks off. You got the Chiefs, the two-time world champs, hosting Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. So that'll be a good game for sure. And we got a lot to talk about today with Brent. Let's go to the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Comfort Temp Heating and Air is your number one local HVAC company. Professional and experienced technicians keep you informed throughout the entire project. Visit them at comforttemp.com. Comfort Temp Heating and Air. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. Brent, how you doing, my man?
Well, I miss our 5 straight days of college football, but we enjoyed it. It was very interesting, to say the least. But the thing about week 2, and I'm sure you've already looked at this, Shane, we've got much better games this week than we did last week, don't we?
Yeah, that is very true. That is very, very true. Brent, before we jump into it, I got a kick out of this. I don't know if you saw it. You're an Alabama guy. I'm going through Twitter last night, and there's a clip from the Hey Coach call-in show in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
And Chris Stewart, the voice of the Crimson Tide now, has always done this show. And he's going through his whole deal, and he's like, if you got a call for Coach Saban, call 954, blah, blah, blah. And Coach DeBoer looks at him, and everybody's cracking up. And he felt like an idiot. And then he's like, yep, I guess I'll be calling JUCO games from now on. But yeah, I don't know if you've seen that, but it's pretty funny. You need to check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it was natural for him, right? He's been doing
I'm sure. Oh yeah.
Got a question for Coach Saban? Give us a call. All right, Brent. Let's jump into it. You can stay in college football now college athletics for a long time.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And what Shane's talking about is the NCAA is considering more changes. Now, I give Ross Dellinger credit for this, but kind of somewhat of what he's talking about is the NCAA or the schools, and again, that's what they are. It's a bunch of schools that are combined together to be the NCAA, and what they're considering doing is giving athletes in all sports, not just football, the ability to participate up to a certain percentage of games in a 5th season and still use their red shirt to also allow athletes to earn prize money before they enroll in college, and to eliminate the national letter of intent. So we won't go into all these because it's still in process. But I just wanted folks to understand what might be coming down the pike. Now, we're going to probably be having revenue sharing next year. Everybody's going to get the $21 million, so they're going to have to decide what they're going to do in dividing that up. And they're going to be, all these things we mentioned, they're looking at probably doing it, or at least a piece of it, about every few months before they get it all together. Now, there's also been a lot of talk about eliminating the spring transfer portal. So all this stuff is in flux, and it's being worked on. But as Shane said, it is really amazing now, the opportunities that student athletes have that they never had before, and particularly the ability to stay in school for an unbelievably long length of time. So some of this stuff's good, some of this you may not like, but we're just throwing it out there for you to know.
Yeah, and I mean, it was interesting. Someone sent me a text. It was a screenshot of asking, "Don't the Gator quarterbacks make more money than Brock Purdy?" And they do. I believe they do, which is crazy. So that's another reason these kids stay in school longer now. And
Yes.
for the non-revenue sports, if they're getting some type of NIL, that's good for them because they
Yes.
don't, like softball, they have that little professional league in the summertime, but I don't know how much money they make
Right.
doing that. So if you're a star in softball, you can make a little bit of money. Brent, the ratings, this tells you when it comes to the amount of money that ABC and ESPN paid to get the rights
Yes.
to the Southeastern Conference.
Yes.
Tell us about these ratings.
Yeah, there were 3 games over the weekend. Notre Dame and A&M had 8.2 million viewers. Georgia Clemson 7.9, and Miami and Florida had 6.6. Now that gives you an example of why the SEC has the money that it does. There's and this came out a couple of years ago. There's kind of a baseline, and if I remember correctly, it's like 4 million, and that's something that television it looks at as what games, what schools can basically give us 4 million viewers. And for those schools who can do that, they're going to get more of your top priority games. But as you can see, with the triple header with the SEC on ABC, they certainly racked up the numbers. But again, Shane, that's an amazing amount of viewers, is it not?
It really is. I've talked about this. Obviously, Notre Dame had a big win at A&M. It was kind of an ugly game, but they're going to be in the playoffs, Brent. I mean, they can cakewalk or sleepwalk,
Yes.
and they're going to
Yes.
be in.
They've got an easy schedule, too, and this was a big win for them. A&M was one of the few teams. And now look, A&M may not even be anywhere near the top 25 by the end of the year. But what people are looking at right now is A&M likely would probably be in the top 25, so that would give Notre Dame certainly some help with the committee. And although Notre Dame is not playing a conference, and they won't be playing on the conference championship Saturday, there's still a feeling with their schedule that they will go 10 and probably no worse than 10-2. And as we know right now, 10-2 will likely get you in the playoffs, particularly if your name's Notre Dame.
Yeah, for sure. Somebody had a question here on Facebook Live brought to you by Meldon Law. They want to know, Brent, who has a better year, Florida State or Florida?
Well, that's a flip of a coin right now, is it not? But look, I would almost say Florida State in the long run, or before last weekend, simply because they've got an easier schedule. But the reality is, right now, we really don't know. And I can tell you this: they may not only lose to Memphis next week, but that could be they may lose by a couple of touchdowns to Memphis. Memphis is really good.
Yeah.
People think Memphis may be like number 12 in the playoffs, but right now, Florida State has so many issues at quarterback and on the line of scrimmage that, and look, when we're just being truthful here, there's really no telling what they can get to come together over the next few weeks, or it may really come apart. So we don't know.
Yeah, I predict that my predictions aren't great, but I predicted BC to win the game, and I also think Memphis rolls them.
Yeah.
Let me get a couple of well, this is way too long. I can't read this text. It's like 5 paragraphs. This is the one from 941. QB, I like the review of your videos. Kelby Collins, 6 snaps. Can you ask one of the guys on your show why? Future first rounder with proper coaching opportunity, I believe, was freshman All-American last year. Keep with pushing the slants and simple power. I don't know what our rotation's like, not just that position. I think we rotate way too many players. I come from the thought process, play your best players unless they need a break. Um, I don't know why we do it. Paul from Pensacola said on the bye week, we should get Shane, Doring, Travis McGriff, HBC, and all the current passing game personnel, lock them in the indoor facility and give him a crash course in pass game. It wouldn't matter. As I've said multiple times, Paul, you can, because a lot of coaches, they learn at coaching conventions or they
Mhm.
look, when it comes to calling plays and teaching, you have the instinct, and I sound like a broken record on here. Um, it's just, and we teach it different than other people, I believe. I don't know how they teach it nowadays, and I'm not just talking about for Florida, at other places, but there's so many crucial details that you have to
Mhm.
be on the same page. You have to worry about your spacing, your timing, your depth, your landmarks, all that. So I hear you though, Paul. I hear you. All right, Brent, let's go around the SEC. Alabama got off to a good start. I tell you what, the game they play this week is going to be interesting.
It is. Yeah, they play South Florida this week, and South Florida is getting better. Now, obviously, this was a game last year where they go to Tampa and they bench Jalen Milroe, and they frankly look horrible in the game, but they're able to gather themselves as the year goes along. Milroe comes back; he's much better. So the question is going to be is, will Alabama be really motivated to play South Florida? And now they've got South Florida this week. They go to Wisconsin next week. Then they have a week off before they play Georgia. So that's the schedule. Now, some of these guys they thought would be really good, really stood up last week. Ryan Williams caught 2 touchdown passes. So he was impressive, a true freshman. Keon Sabb, who is transferred from Michigan, had a couple of interceptions. Um, and frankly, the team looked good overall. Now, South Florida also is Byron Brown has turned out to be a pretty good quarterback. Jalen Shuler is a pretty good linebacker that they've got. By the way, Shane, the name Naquan Wright should be familiar with our listeners.
He's been there forever. He's been playing college football forever too. I love
He
Naquan.
has. He
Well,
really
good
has,
gracious.
hasn't he? Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And Shane, he's still there. He's the
I
tailback
know.
for South Florida. So, well, it will be an interesting game. One side note: Saturday night, the field will be named in honor of Nick Saban. So they'll have a ceremony at some point. I don't remember if it's before the game or at halftime, but they will have that ceremony Saturday.
Real quick, a text here on the Titan Mark text line from George. He says, Shane, can you please explain to me how you thought we were good on offense? Okay, I'm glad he asked this question because I'd never said we were good on offense. I said offense wasn't the problem. When you look at the 3 phases of the Florida football team, and I'm talking about last year, offense was not the problem. We were horrible on defense. We were horrible on special teams. I never said we were great on offense. I said they weren't the problem. And that was a fact. Are they good after one game? No, they are a problem. Defense is a problem. Special teams is not a problem. So hope I made that clear. I don't know if that makes any sense to anyone. So thanks for the text. Arkansas at Oklahoma State. This should be a pretty good game.
Yeah, it will be. No doubt. Bobby Petrino's offense put up 70 points last weekend. Now, look, it was Arkansas Pine Bluff, and we understand that. But Taylor Green, the quarterback for Arkansas, he did well in the game. Had 4 touchdowns, over 200 yards passing. Now, with Oklahoma State, Ollie Gordon obviously is a guy you got to stop. He had 126 yards last week in the win over South Dakota State. So this is a big game for Arkansas. This is a game that it would do them a lot of good in order to win a game like this. That's a road game, so you've got all the things you deal with when you're on the road. And I'm not saying they're going to win, but this will be a good early test for Arkansas to see where they are. One of the interesting things about this game, too, the two schools are only 2.5 hours away, but they haven't played since 1980. You'd think that would happen. Oklahoma runs Shane, how often do you see this? Oklahoma State's defense is a 3-3-5. That's a bit unusual to some degree, but wanted to mention that to you, that that's not something you see every day, is it?
No, it's not. Question or a comment here on Facebook Live brought to you by Metal Law. Brennan says, QB Buddy had a good panel last night. They were saying if UF did not make a change at head coach and a coach they were targeting was in the playoffs, that it would only leave a coach a few days for the first recruiting class. Look, I could care less. I understand recruiting is important. Don't take that wrong. I'm not Dan Mullen. Don't give me a bunch of text. But this hire has to be correct. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And there's, in my opinion, if it happens, there is one guy they're going after, and he will probably be in the playoffs. Okay. So who cares? But the problem is, well, not the problem. 95% of his roster did not come from high school recruiting. I'll leave it at that. I think we all know who we're talking about. So, and like I said, I don't know. I mean, he may not want to come here, but that's who it is. All right. So the Auburn Tigers, I don't know if you've ever had this on your bingo card, that the Cal Bears are going to roll into the Plains. I wonder if that's ever happened.
Well, if it has, it's been very rare. Now, Auburn went to Cal last year and, frankly, very easily could have lost the game, but they were able to seal the deal in the fourth quarter. Now, they beat Alabama and A&M. Patrick Thorne looked better. He threw for 322 yards and 4 touchdowns. Their freshman receivers were also impressive, too. But if you're not familiar with Cal, Jaden Ott is their running back, and he, frankly, is one of the better running backs in the nation. So he will be a challenge, again, for the Auburn defense. They beat UC Davis last week, and Ott left with a right ankle injury, but he is supposed to play in the game. So Auburn getting a little bit better. They're still recruiting well. And certainly, they jump up in competition against Cal. And again, that's another home game. Every September game is going to be at Auburn, and Auburn does not play at home at all in October, which again is one of the more stranger things we've ever seen.
Don on Facebook Live says, Shane, you said Kerwin Bell won't get a chance to come here. Why? That's just my personal opinion. I talk to Kerwin once a week. I just don't see it happening. I would love for it to happen. I think Kerwin's as good a football coach, offensive mind, as you'll find in America. But I'm sure some people would like that hire. A lot of people wouldn't. Let me get. I'm going to address a couple of people talking about Shane loves Mertz. I do like Graham Mertz. Everybody else liked Graham Mertz last year. He has one bad game. People are down on him.
Really?
I will say this. Okay. I'm hoping DJ plays his tail off and plays well. And if he plays against A&M, I hope he plays well. None of that matters right now. Look, when quarterbacks take off running to extend plays, that to me has nothing to do with your offense, okay? The fans are going to get excited about that, and whether it moves the chains or whatever, that's fine. But that still does not fix the problem, if that makes any sense. I don't know if it does to y'all or not. Maybe I didn't explain that well. All right. The Gators have Samford. What do you think in this game? Brent, Samford has been good. I mean, they play in a
Yeah,
really good conference in
they do.
FCS.
They
I don't
do.
know anything about West Georgia, but I was surprised that they lost to West Georgia. Maybe West Georgia is better than I thought. I don't even know what are they. Have they moved up to like Conference USA or something like that? West Georgia.
I will double check that. But I mean, Sanford has been a decent football team. Chris Hatcher has been there for a while. But no, I'm with you. I'm a little bit surprised with that. That Quincy Crittenden is their quarterback. He's a dual threat guy. He had 302 yards passing and a couple of touchdowns and ran for almost 100 himself. But yeah, that was certainly a bit of a surprise. I thought Sanford would probably win that game, but they didn't. And I mean, they've got some good athletes, but obviously they don't have the roster that an SEC team would.
Yeah. Gator defense struggled again, gave up a ton of explosive plays. This has been kind of the same thing year in and year out. And again, like I said, people want to look at offense. I understand. Just not a very good football team. Defense is just as bad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. And there's just I don't know if it's a lack of communication or if there's just some confusion, particularly from in the back of that defense. Several people have pointed out to me this week that they're looking at each other, and by the time they turn around, the play is either right in front of them or behind them. So there's I mean, look, Florida's not the only school that had trouble communicating last weekend. I can assure you of that. But hopefully that's something that will get better.
Yeah. Mark on YouTube, brought to you by Qualcomm, says, "Who cares how you move the chains with your arm or your legs?" I get that, Mark, but I can tell you this: when you're putting an offensive game plan together and you call a pass play, you're not saying, "Okay, we're gonna bank on the quarterback scrambling for 12 yards to pick up." That it's the scheme is what we're referring to here. A kid's athletic ability will make plays with their legs or whatever, but you don't just draw up a play and say, "Okay, drop back and take off running." I don't think you understand what we're talking about here. So anyway, all right, Georgia, they got a barn burner this week. Tennessee Tech.
Yeah, well, after you play Clemson, the next game is going to be an easy one, and it certainly is. And look, Georgia, a close game at halftime, came out, really played well, just took over the game in the second half. That certainly is not a surprise at all. And they had a lot of guys who played well. Wide receiver Arian Smith, 5 catches for 56. London Humphreys is a guy that they were really impressed with, who had a big game, 2 catches, 63 yards. The guy who really got a lot of people's attention was this number 3 at running back, Nate Frazier, who had a really good game, had a 40-yard run, 24-yard catch, almost 100 total yards. And they had some defensive guys who really stood up and played well. Jalen Walker was one of those, really on 3rd and short. He played well in stopping the run. So, I mean, it's typical Georgia that they took care of business. They were efficient, frankly, as the game went on. I mean, they've got bigger tasks coming up, which is good. They need that. But they'll have a very easy game this weekend.
Dan says, "Would Lane even work at UF with Florida's fans' lack of NIL donations?" I think that would change if Lane was the coach. Andy did some research for us on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel. Says West Georgia's in the United Football Conference. Everyone from Austin P to Utah Tech. I've never heard of that. I learned something today.
Yeah. We learn something on this show every week. Absolutely.
Yeah. Stacy says, "I agree with you, Shane. Both offense and defense looked horrible. I wonder how much time the offense spends running routes, throwing on air. Either the players are not understanding the purpose of the routes, and the QB's timing's horrible with the passing. I mean, they spend probably 25 minutes, maybe. I'm an hour guy on routes on air. Look, here's the thing: is you can coach it up, but sometimes guys don't do what they're coached in the game.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm just saying it happens. But there's more. The passing game is not good. The running game is not good. There's a lot of things that aren't good right now. Stacey else says, I also agree there seems to be way too much player rotation on both sides of the ball. That I do not understand. Play your best players until they need a breather. Is that what you would do, Brent, if you were a coach? Play your best players till they needed a breather?
Well, I'll say this, though. Let me give you the reverse of that. One of the things, and when Nick Saban was at Alabama, one of the few things that he did that people did not agree with, he actually had several games where they didn't play enough players, and particularly on the defensive side of the ball. They had some games that they lost because their defense was not what it should have been, or he didn't play enough players where the defense is on the field for 100 plays. And that's one of those situations where, I mean, they looked at it later on. Hindsight's wonderful. That if they would have given, and even the starters even said something about this, if they would have given more of a break, they may have had they would have played better toward the end of the game, and it came down to the end of the game situation. So look, I get the point, I really do, and the other thing is that, what that NIL makes things a lot more difficult in that. What do you do with guys? Do you you've got, I know this sounds stupid, but this goes on. I mean, you've got guys who think, well, I'm giving this school money, so-and-so needs to be playing more. Good coaches don't pay much attention to that, if any at all. But there are just some things like that are going on right now in college football we would have never had to deal with before, but we're having to deal with that now, and that causes a little bit of what's going on in how many players you play every game.
Yeah, the money thing is an issue now because it's going to be interesting to see what Florida State does because they're paid DJU a lot of money.
Yep, you're right.
Will they put him on the bench? I don't know.
Yep.
I just have a problem when the Gator defense, if they do force, say, a 3-and-out or maybe it's a 5-play drive, the very next series after they've been resting, they put in a whole new rotation. That I just don't understand that. All right, Brent, South Carolina. As I predicted that Old Dominion would give them a game.
You did.
They have quarterback issues, and I think they will continue having quarterback issues. What can you tell us about the Gamecocks?
Well, they've got Kentucky this weekend and one of the more interesting SEC games. But the Gamecocks really got out by the hair of their chinny chin. Look, Old Dominion's leading that game with 6 minutes and change left in the fourth quarter. So they were, I mean, I give South Carolina credit for coming back. Rocket Sanders had a really good game, so that helped them. But their quarterback, Lenore Sellers, really did very little in the game at all. I mean, he was 10 of 23 for 114 yards. He runs the ball okay, so he's a bit of a dual threat with 68 yards, but he really was not much help at all in the passing game. The defense did well, particularly at the end of the game. DeAndre Jules made some big plays toward the end, but it may be Shane. I don't know if you saw this, but they interviewed Shane Beamer at the end of the game, and the look on his face when the interview ended, I mean, he just kind of looked up with that look of, boy, this is going to be a long season here, and it probably is. Now, Kentucky, they won in a storm-shortened game. People may not even heard this yet, but Kentucky had about at least two lightning stoppages, and they finally just called the game in the third quarter, which is probably pretty smart. And look, Shane, at that point it was close to midnight, so they made that decision, which was a good decision. Brock Vandergriff was 12 of 18 for 169, ran the ball a little bit, did well. Overall, it was the Kentucky defense played well. I think Kentucky wins this game, and I tell you what, if they blow South Carolina out, that's going to be. I'm not saying they're going to fire him by any means, but that's going to begin to start put some pressure on Shane Beamer.
Yeah, I think they do handle them. Justin says on YouTube, brought to you by Quiet Plumbing, are those poor post route throws a matter of coaching or just bad throws since he did it? Okay. First of all, if you watch my tape, the route that the receiver ran was terrible. The throw was terrible. You have to throw a guy open. You cannot throw that post route. You have to make him go to the other upright. So it was a bad throw. It was a bad route. But not every ball is going to be complete. I will just say that. I mean, we missed two of them due to route running and to bad throws. It was a combination of both. And that's where it goes to landmarks, spacing, timing, knowing what you're doing. A text here from PMB on the Titan More text line says, Muschamp rotated defensive lineman to a very good effect. Well, he also had NFL defensive linemen. You can say what you want to say about Will Muschamp, but when he coached here, we had dudes on that side of the ball. We did not have to worry about anything because we could play D for sure. Brent, let's jump down to Tennessee, man. Nico, obviously it was Chattanooga, but boy, he looked pretty good.
He did, no doubt about it. I mean, he put the ball right on the money. I mean, the receivers just basically raised their hands, and there was the ball. So no wonder they're excited about him now. Especially after going through Joe Milton, right? You've got, and I'm not trying to be disparaging against Milton, but look, Milton was just not accurate. That's just the reality of it. But Nico is. They do have a big game this weekend. They play NC State at Charlotte. So that, I think that's going to be an interesting to see how they do against better competition. NC State has Grayson McCall. That people are familiar with that name. He's just a good quarterback too. So you've got two good quarterbacks going on here. Tennessee runs the ball well. Dylan Sampson is a guy that probably is not mentioned that much because Nico gets so much attention. So yes, big game for Tennessee. I think they are probably better overall. They've got a better roster than NC State does, but this should be a fun game to watch.
Electronics World, integration and design specialist for smart home automation and entertainment. Affordable, local installation, service, and support. electronicsworld.net. Brent, LSU, I thought LSU looked much improved on defense with the guy coming over from Missouri. Had a chance to win the game. Just a really good college football game. Two things came. Yes. I could not believe Brian Kelly's comments about their quarterback outplayed our quarterback. What the hell was he watching and what is he thinking? Because both quarterbacks were outstanding.
They were.
And then it's kind of sad that their John Emery, highly recruited kid who's been there forever off and on, tore his ACL the other day.
Yeah, that's a real shame. And he tore it in practice on Tuesday, so he is out for the year. And he really played well, particularly late in the game against Southern Cal. LSU got ahead 17-13, and for whatever reason just got complacent. Now, LSU had what happened to them happened to several teams. Florida did it. Florida State did it. But they had a couple of just absolutely foolish penalties, personal foul, roughing the passer type things that just kills a football team when you're getting your opponent off the field and you've got something like that keeps them on the field. Now, Miller Moss, the quarterback at Southern Cal, did have a good game. He really played well late in the game. But I'm with you, Shane. But both the quarterbacks did fine, and unbelievably, this again was the 5th straight loss in a season opener for LSU, and that hadn't happened since '91 through '95. So that's tough to be able to deal with. But they've got Nichols coming up, and but the thing you said that I think was important was Blake Baker is there from Missouri. They are better defensively, and if they're much better defensively by November, they can make some noise and make a run at the playoffs.
Mississippi State did what I thought they would do offensively. Now they travel out to the desert, have Arizona State. This could be an entertaining game.
Really could. Now, this is a 10:30 kickoff, so Shane Matthews may either be in the bed or close to being in the bed by then.
Well, the problem is I may not be in traffic. Our game kicks off at 7.
Good point. Yeah.
I don't know what the hell was going on last week with all the people that left early. I don't know why the traffic was so bad when I tried to get home. It took me almost 2 hours.
Oh, man. Wow. Well, Blake Shapen, the Mississippi State quarterback, last weekend had a good game, 247, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, ran the ball a little bit too in the win over Eastern Kentucky. So they're just kind of getting their head together. Frankly, Arizona State beat Wyoming handily. The defense had a couple of touchdowns, held Wyoming to 118 yards. So will be a good test for Mississippi State. And so I'll reverse what I said. Hopefully by the time you get home and before you go to bed, you'll be able to see a little bit of it. How about that?
Yeah, I usually go to bed early, but I don't on Saturday nights because I'm usually wired and have trouble sleeping because I got too much going through my mind.
Really?
The Rebels dropped 76 on Furman. I have a feeling Lane's going to do this week in and week out. I don't know if they were joking, but I saw his press conference, Brent. I don't know if you saw this or not. I don't know if he was asked to have a running clock. He said no because he wanted his backups to get some time. I've never heard of that in college football.
I haven't either. I mean, maybe it's happened before for some odd reason. Like because weather coming in or something like that. But no, I've really never, and I sure maybe
and
I have,
like I said,
I just don't remember it.
It could have been a joke because I just saw a clip of it.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize this either. Looking at the schedule, I didn't realize Derek Mason's the head coach at Middle Tennessee State.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, but I mean, they won 76-0 against Furman. They barely broke a sweat, frankly. But again, and Jackson Dart and the guys that they've got obviously played well. 418 yards, 5 touchdowns in the first half. That's a pretty good day, is it not? So, and they've got Middle Tennessee. That won't be much of a challenge either. But again, the thing we said at the beginning of the year was Ole Miss and Missouri are 2 teams have got pretty easy schedules. And that's one of the reasons they're probably going to make the playoffs or certainly be a challenger for it.
Yeah, Michael in Tennessee on the Titan MR text line said, after Coach Spurrier and Meyer, my favorite coach was Muschamp. He was very fiery. I wish he was still in Gainesville. One of his problems was he wouldn't let the OC control the offense. Our defense was always a strength with Muschamp. No question about it. All right, Brent, before we get you out of here, the premier game, I think, in the country is probably Texas at Michigan.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This is going to be interesting to see how Quinn Ewers does against the Michigan defense. Now, look, Michigan's lost a lot of people. There's no doubt about that, but this is still a good football team. Texas is kind of rebounding with their running backs. C.J. Baxter, they lost him due to injuries, but they also have some guys step up. Jaden Blue, for one. Jarrett Gibson was another to Michigan won, but they were only up 16-10 with 11 minutes to go against Fresno State. So they're trying. And look, people may not realize this, but they're still trying to figure out their quarterback situation. So they've got a couple of guys they need to settle on one, so I'm sure this week's practice will be very interesting for them. But they've still got some dudes on defense, frankly, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, for instance. No question, this will be one of the bigger games of the year. Man, oh man, Shane, can you imagine if Michigan would have had a lot of those guys back this year who went to the NFL? The build up for this game would have been unbelievable, wouldn't it?
Yeah. We got people on here saying they want Marcus Freeman as the head coach of Florida. That will not happen. There is no way they hire anybody that's a defensive guy. No way.
Right.
Zero chance of that, in my opinion. Brent, give us some nuggets.
Well, A&M plays McNeese. A&M had a game in Notre Dame that they could have won, but give Notre Dame credit. They ran the ball well, and they played good defense. Connor Weigman struggled, 12 of 29 for 100 yards and 2 interceptions. The receiver struggled also. And my team of the week, the Vanderbilt Commodores, they're playing Alcorn State. And I just that was such an enjoyable game for a lot of reasons. To see Diego Pavia, the Vanderbilt quarterback who wanted the ball in his hands at the end. You got to love that about a quarterback, too. Look, Virginia Tech was picked by some to win the ACC. So this is this may have been the biggest win for Vanderbilt in 10 years. And that's not exaggerating it either. Do you remember the name Jerry Kill?
Yeah.
He was with Pavia at New Mexico State, and they beat Auburn last year. Well, Kill has come over to Vanderbilt. Kill's a good coach. He's got some health issues that he's very transparent about, and he works on them all the time. But he's a good guy. He's a good coach. And look, they may not win another game, Shane, but that was a thrilling win for the Commodores.
Yeah, it was. We got a text here on the Titan and More text line from Josh. He wants to know, Brent, who is your leading Heisman guy after week 1?
Yeah, and we're already doing this, so I certainly get the question. I mean, Cam Ward's going to be up there for Miami. Travis Hunter is going to be mentioned for Colorado. I think in it last week he played all but 2 plays, which is amazing. Shador Sanders is going to get some looks. I mean, Carson Beck, Jason Dart, Georgia and Ole Miss, Jalen Milroe. But I mean, look, I understand the rivalry, but Cam Ward did a really good job to be in that environment against a rival. So maybe give him the nod with that, but it's way early, and I've seen this many times, and I've told people before that no one wins the Heisman in September and October. They do it for the entire year, but I get the question. It's a good question, so we'll follow that every week.
Yeah. Brent, I'm going to ask you who you got winning the Super Bowl this year, and since the NFL kicks off tonight.
Look, until they show it's differently, Shane, it's hard not to go for the Chiefs, isn't it?
Yeah, I said on the podcast a couple of years ago that I thought Patrick Mahomes will break Brady's record for Super Bowl wins. I mean, he's got 3 in like 6 years or something like that, and he went to another one. And he's the best player on the planet. And I don't follow the NFL like I used to. I don't know if I think they made some additions to their wide receiver core because that was kind of a issue last year.
Right.
But yeah, Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid's a pretty damn good combination.
Well, they are, aren't they? And they make some pretty good commercials too, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Brent, good stuff as always, my friend. Appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you next week.
Good. Always enjoy it, Shane. Take care and enjoy the games.
Yep, that's Brent Beaird, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. Join us on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Take a quick time out, come back, try to get to some of these comments, questions, and all these tons of text. You're watching and listening to PodUp Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, Titan MRI, Meldon Law, Peachland Dental, QC Kinetics, Campus USA Credit Union, Dave & Buster's. Gridiron sponsors, Comfort Temp, UF Bookstores, Quality Plumbing, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogra State Farm, Electronics World, F45. Our touchdown sponsors, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Aikido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, MG&A Wealth, Nest and Wild.
If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative, regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Discover the ultimate Cuban culinary experience at Miapa Latin Cafe. With 5 locations in Gainesville and Alachua, you're never far from the best Cuban food north of Miami. I want to thank Brent Beaird for joining us on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Text here on the Titan More text line from Rob. He says, Shane, do you think with the schools being able to pay players next year, UF should be looking for the best general manager right now? Ask Trace Armstrong, who's the best NFL general manager to work with, and hire him. Well, I can promise you, I highly doubt anybody from the National Football League is going to leave to go to college football. But yeah, you're going to have to get someone who's worked with a salary cap and all that stuff, because all that starts next year. This is from 863, says, Coach going to be money, but NIL will skyrocket to get kids. I don't know what that means. All right. Everybody's wanting not Bob Stoops. I love Bob Stoops to be our coach. Mark Stoops. I don't see that happening. That's just my opinion. I have no inside information or any of that. Andy wants to know on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel, how important is the ability to effectively break down tape to help with play calling process? Play calling it's not really breaking down the tape. What you do is you get one of your grad assistants and they import all this information into the computer, and it spits out tendencies. Tendencies is how you call plays. So on 1st and 10 against this formation, what do they usually play? So it kind of gives you an idea to forecast what you're going to get. Now that can change. Obviously, a defense coordinator can change those things up, but they have a feel. Most defense coordinators kind of do the same thing, just like offense coordinators do as well. But the thing about offensive play calling that I love is when you set formations, there's only a certain couple things the defense can do. You dictate what you're going to get, and then you attack that weakness. Like one of my favorite formations in all of football is the formation that we ran, the 71-yard touchdown. You put the tight end into the boundary. He's attached. the 3 eligible receivers the other side. We used to call that bandit left over. Boy, that is a good formation to run out of. It's a great formation to throw out of because you get good protection. You can do a lot of different route concepts. So it's like I said, the passing game is not difficult. The only thing difficult in the passing game is your protection schemes. If you have your schemes and your quarterback knows where he's protected and where he's not, that's all that matters. Is if you know who can come free and you get rid of it. I drew up the play or did a diagram of it the other day. We threw hot. It was to Mertz's right, but I can't remember which back was coming out of the backfield. He was your hot route. He ran like an option route. You don't have time for that. When you're hot, you got to go to the flat immediately. And there was so much green grass out there. If we complete that ball, run the correct route, put it on them, you pick up 8 or 9 yards or break a tackle, you got 15. So it's just little details that are huge. And of course, somebody may say Mertz made a bad throw. That was not on Graham Mertz. That he was hot. The back didn't run the route correctly. I don't know how we teach it, but from what I saw, him being hot, that's what should have happened. Mark says Andy Reid is one of the great play callers. There's no question. He's one of the greatest of all time. Absolutely love what he does. Greg says, QB, wouldn't Florida have to pay the remainder of Kiffin's contract at Ole Miss to get him to come to Florida? Yeah, he's probably got something there. I don't think it's going to matter. I don't know who it's going to be or if it's going to happen, but if it does, I'm predicting that whoever we hire will be the highest paid coach in America. They're going to have to be. It's going to have to be. So, all right, let's see. Got a text here on the Titan MR text line. Michael in Tennessee says the Gators are still under the Marco Wilson shoe throw curse. That's funny. Somebody texted me the other day and says, we need to do away with won't back down. We have not been a very good football team since we started playing that. And I don't know when we started that, but I probably have to agree with that. I can't remember us being very good then. Evo Guy on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says every new coach is going to want a bigger contract than Billy's. We are screwed if the next coach is a bust also. We need someone elite and can take a chance when the coaching market is bad. That's why whoever we hire, if we hire a new coach, will be somebody that people know and he's been winning. And I think he will be the highest paid coach in America for that year. And then obviously Kalen DeBoer or somebody else will probably get an extension. But I think that's what will happen. I think it's got to happen. It's the only way. You're going to have to spend a lot of money to get somebody to come in here and clean it up and win games. Let's see here. Got a million of these. Art wants to know any chance that Scott Strickland resigns. Shameless human, have some integrity, you crook. I don't know about any of that. He's a nice guy. Tommy says, I concur. No more. I won't back down. I mean, it's cool, but we have not been very good since that happened. Silverback Concrete builds firm foundations for generations. You stand on it. We stand by it. Tomorrow, we'll have JC here. We'll do more Peachland Dental picks. He and I both, I'm changing my pick. JC's probably watching because he's a loyal listener when he's not on. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I don't know why the spread in that game is only like 3, but I'm going with the best player in America, in the world. I'm going with Pat Mahomes. I think they lost this game last year, if I'm not mistaken, to the Lions, but I think they win today. Yeah, they did lose to the Lions. So I'm going to go with that. JC has them. We'll do more Peachland Dental picks over the weekend. And I'm trying to get one more writer on to see what he's hearing out there. Dan says, bring back the Gator bait chant. Agree. That's going to do it for today's program. Hope y'all enjoyed it. The sun did come up. And we got the Sanford Bulldogs on Saturday. Have a great day, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.